Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Abduction, Victim to Survivor. My name is Abby, and I am your host for today. My podcast is about family abduction and the stories of those who've lived through it. Their stories are filled with pain, hope, and resilience. I am very passionate about dispelling the myth that when a child is taken by a parent or family member, it's okay. You will see from the personal stories shared here and from the experts that it is not okay. You will learn about the harm it causes to the abducted child, the searching parents, and of course to those who love them. I do my best to create a safe space for people to share heartfelt, painful, and difficult conversations to help you understand family abduction and show those with lived experience that they are not alone. This is personal for me because my son was abducted from me and from his life when he was only 10 years old. I want to emphasize that time is of the essence when it comes to recovering children. The longer they remain missing, the more pain and trauma the children will experience. Today, I am so excited because I have a very special person today as a guest. Someone that I worked with for many years at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And he has the biggest heart, and he is so passionate about this work. This is Dr. John E. Bischoff, and he's currently the Vice President of the Missing Children's Division of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as NCMEC. Within this role, he is responsible for the oversight of all the missing children's cases, both in the United States and those children taken abroad. And that is a lot of cases, thousands. He is responsible for all case management and the hotline operations, which I always talk about at the end of the podcast, 1-800-THE-LOST. Before joining NCMEC in September of 2010, he served with the FEMA, focusing on reunification and mass evacuation disaster services, and with AOL, directly managing child protection, public safety, and criminal investigation efforts. Additionally, he has more than 25 years of experience working with both career and volunteer fire rescue organizations as an incident command officer, and has nearly 4 years involved in wilderness search and rescue operations. Dr. Bischoff received a doctorate of engineering from the George Washington University, and we were all so proud of him because he did go back to school later in life, like I did, and I know how hard that is, and he accomplished that while he was working full-time for NCMEC. So you'll see that he is a very extraordinary man. And hi, John.
Abby, thank you for having me. It's always great to catch up, and you hear the intro and you're just thinking, oh my goodness, like that sounds like a lot, and
Yeah.
it is, but it's all great stuff in the right direction, right? It's all
Yes.
everything when you look back over my career, it's all to help people. That's what I enjoy doing. That's where my passion is, and I thank you for having me on because hopefully we can help more people through this.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too. And we're very much alike in that. And John graced Team Hope with his presence, well, at every training actually, but there was one particular training where he started off with this story that was so inspiring, and he really touched the hearts of all the Team Hopers. And I would love it, John, if you would start with that story.
Yeah, I'd be happy to because it's for me anyway, a very meaningful story. It impacts my family, and it really ties together, the work that we do at NCMEC, and who we're trying to help. So I have a pretty big family. I'm fortunate enough to have a wonderful family. One of my nieces, amazing young lady, love her dearly. She is a runner. She's a nurse now, but boy, at the time she was back in high school, early high school years, she was a runner and doing a lot of cross country work. And she's good at it, now she is. But back then she was just starting out with the whole cross country side of things. She had an event coming up, and it was one of those community events. It was out in Western Virginia. We're in Northern Virginia, but it was in Western Virginia. Her parents couldn't make the event, so my family went out to support her, and just excited. It was one of those, it was one of the marathons and half marathons kind of going off at the same time. Very long race and a short race more for beginners. And okay, so we went, and then we were out there, and as a family, just excited to see her go and start her running career. Who knew what it was going to turn into at the time? But she was excited about it, so we were excited for her and excited about it. So we're out there, and a lot of people, all the runners getting geared up and getting ready to do whatever length of run they were doing. And the race starts, and we're trying to keep up, right? Cell coverage is super patchy, and we're trying to keep up with, the event itself, but just enjoy the day. It was a gorgeous day. And we're over at the finish line, waiting at the shorter race, and she doesn't show up, right? The time, we're watching the time and thinking, she's supposed to be coming through by now, right? I know she's new at running, but she's not here yet. And we started to get a little bit worried. We don't exactly know the course. We don't exactly know where we are. It's pretty far away from our home, but we're getting nervous. And in the line of work that we're in, of course, your mind wanders a little bit. But then again, it's a race. Maybe she's not as quick as I thought she was. Maybe she's a lot slower in the running. She's not really. So phone rings, and it's her, and she's crying. She's a little upset, and I'm thinking, what happened? Are you okay? Did you get hurt? Is everything all right? And it turns out she got into the grouping for the longer race, and she's not prepared for the longer race. She's barely prepared for the shorter race. And at first, my thought was, honest mistake. Okay, so what do we do here? And she's crying, and she keeps telling me, Uncle John, this is not the race I wanted. This is not the race that I had planned for. And I said, sweetheart, it's okay. This is the race you're in. So what are we gonna do? Her only shot really was to keep going, and to keep going in the longer race. And we talked about it, and I could not go to her. I didn't know where she exactly was. I did not know the area. I did not know the terrain that they were in, and so I couldn't just drive out and pick her up and say the race is a scrap. Just call it a day. Couldn't do it. So we came up with a plan that she was going to go ahead and run another mile and then call in, and then she was going to run another mile, and after the next mile, she calls in, she's still upset, and runs a little bit more, and she's still upset, clearly. And every time she'd stop and she'd call in, would have a similar discussion where, this is not the race I wanted. This is not where I wanted to be. And I hurt, and my body hurts, and I'm not ready for this. And I just kept telling her, this is the race you're in, and you have one way to go, and that's to finish it. Because I can't come to you, I can't help you. And we kept checking in, and we kept talking, and we kept coaching her through the miles after miles after miles. And she eventually did finish the race, and hurting and crying and tears and a lot of emotion, but that's what it took. It wasn't the race that she wanted. It wasn't the race that she had planned for at the start. And the similarity with so many people in life that go through missing child, abducted children, whatever the case, that's not the way they envision their life being. It's not the way they graduated high school and said, let me have a huge traumatic event that's going to shake my life upside down for many weeks, months, or years. But it's the race that they're in, and it's what they have in front of them. And there's only one route to go, and that's to keep fighting and to keep finishing the race. And that's where organizations like NCMEC and like Team Hope come into play so much, because they're that person on the other end of the phone. They're that person who's listening, who's coaching, who they can't be there. They can't hold your hand. They can't come and get you and tell you that it's going to be okay and let's just get in the car and call it a day. They need those people on the phone, just a voice to say, it's all right. You're going to have to fight through the pain. You're going to have to fight to push forward. You're going to have to make it to the finish line. And we're going to do it together. And that's where it isn't the race we wanted, but we have to finish it. We've got no other option. So fighting through it, working together, keeping that end goal in mind is so important to help the family, to help the searching parent to get to the end goal. In my niece's case, it was a race that she was not prepared for. In daily work, it's all these parents that we end up helping and supporting for a race that they don't want to be in, but they have no other route to go but to go forward, and to go for that finish line. And that finish line is getting their child back safely and as quickly as possible. And it doesn't matter if it's 13 miles or 26 miles or 13 years or 26 years. They need that support going constantly, just to keep them together, to keep them sane, to keep them moving forward, to keep them with that goal in mind, because we're all in this with them, and we want that child back home safely.
Yeah, it's so inspiring, and it's so true. And having a missing child, we didn't want it, we didn't plan for it, but here we are. And the case managers at NCMEC and the other people at NCMEC really help the families. And I know that there was one case manager years ago who always said when he was talking to a family or a parent, we will keep looking for your child. We will never stop. And as long as your child is missing, we will keep looking. And those are just, they seem like simple words, but they mean so much to someone who doesn't know where their child is.
And we see it all too often, right? As the National Center, we assist with around 32,000 missing child cases per year. If you take a look at the 2025 numbers, across the board, about 6% of those are family abduction cases. Yeah. It always starts out, unfortunately, the same, right? It's a parent who's just completely set adrift as to what just happened. What's going on? Where is my child? And where do I go next? Yeah. And we've been doing this since 1984 as an organization. So we've got a lot of experience in having those discussions, unfortunately. But we help set the stage. And as you said, we'll never forget about a missing child. We have cases that date back a very long time. And we're still looking for those kids today. So when that parent finds themselves in a race that they never wanted to be in, it's nice to know that you have support. You have people that have been supporting these types of cases for a very long time, and we understand the next steps and not just the search side of it, not just the supporting the family side of it, which we do both, but also the post-recovery side of it. Because keep in mind, once a child comes home, if it was a couple of days, okay, it was traumatic, absolutely. It was very upsetting. But if months and even years, unfortunately, at times we see these cases go years, there's some healing that needs to be done on the back end too. There's a new norm that needs to come into play. There's some understandings that need to come into play, because everybody's pretty traumatized over what just occurred. And it's not just, oh great, you're back home, what time's your softball game? It's not that easy to put things back in gear. It takes some healing and some understanding on everyone's part, to make sure the puzzle gets put back together the right way
Yeah.
and everyone's able to move forward.
Yeah, and the Family Advocacy Division helps with that, and
They do.
they're great at finding help for the families because it's true. I mean, everybody's traumatized by that. I keep saying I was a hot mess when my son came home. It was awful, and they didn't have family advocacy back then, but they do now. They've learned so many things from the parents, and they really work hard to help families, as do the case managers. And now that I have you here, I would love for you to help our listeners understand what happens when law enforcement calls in a case of family abduction and when a parent calls it in. Like, it's very different. I think the procedure is very different depending on who's calling it in. But I think they would love to know the life cycle of the case from the time it's called into the hotline until the child is recovered.
Yeah, and it's so we will take phone calls of new cases from parents, legal guardians, or law enforcement. Sometimes even social services are certainly involved in some of the reporting as well. But for us as an organization, we're just happy to help. Now, if law enforcement calls us in, initially that's a really good sign for us because we understand that law enforcement is actively looking for the missing child, right? We know there's they probably have a case open already. They probably have some details from their side that they're looking to report and looking for our assistance to engage in helping them find the missing child. They also give us the parent contact information. They let us know if it's okay if we reach out to the parent, first, because the parent may not know that law enforcement is calling us. So it's always nice if law enforcement says, well, here's the parent's contact information, but let me tell them that you're going to be calling them, because just to kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
What we try and build out ultimately in the best case scenario for a more streamlined communication is that whole team of teams, right? We look at it in a triangle form where you have law enforcement actively involved, you have the National Center actively involved, and certainly the searching parent actively involved. And if those three are communicating and communicating effectively, it helps the information flow just a lot easier, because the searches that we're doing, we give back to law enforcement. Some of our searches we can't give back to the parent because of the tools that we use. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But as far as who's calling us, law enforcement, great to call us because we know they're engaged, we know they're actively looking for the missing child. Now, majority of our calls is when a parent's calling us, especially on a family abduction case. Majority of the time, it's a parent looking for those resources because they're set adrift and they're searching. If you search Google for missing child, we're the first one who's going to come up. And then they quickly learn about us and they dial our 800 number and say that my child's missing. Now, there's a couple of things we have to ground truth as soon as we get a call from a parent. Is law enforcement involved in the case? Because understanding family abductions from the law enforcement side is always tricky. Sometimes it's initially viewed as a civil matter, that there's no criminal intent or anything, thereof, and they don't always know how to start that investigation or how to get the ball rolling, and they they may think that it's give it some time. It's got to be worked out civilly. Contact your attorney. If you're going through a divorce or if it's a separation or whatever the case is, it's a civil matter. Yeah. And that's something we have to ground truth, right? Because for us to do posters, for us to engage with the public, let the public know that a child's missing, the child has to be in the National Crime Information Center. Now, only law enforcement can put them into NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. And that is a law enforcement investigative tool. It's, if you remember back in the old TV shows when they would say, we're going to put it on the wire, right? You always heard that in the 1940s, 1950s. The wire was basically putting it out there for all law enforcement agencies to be aware of the event that was going on, that a crime had been committed. So getting the child into NCIC is key to help us kind of take the extra step of making a poster and putting the poster out there and actively looking for the child. Now, that's just one of many resources that we can assist with. That's not the only one. And we don't wait for a child to be put into NCIC to support the parent, or to at least give them advice as to next steps or what's going on.
Right.
But if a parent calls us, we're obviously working to engage and support that parent wherever we can. We're a little limited in what we could do until we validate that the child is in NCIC, but we're not stopped in the water. We are absolutely going to get that case, even if the child's not in NCIC. If law enforcement is not engaged yet, we can still support that parent with resources. We can still engage them with our family advocacy division. We can also help them, in working with law enforcement to move the case forward on the investigative side as well. So a lot of things can be done, whether the child's in NCIC or not. It's better if they are, certainly. But we can work with the parent to try and obtain that goal as quickly as we can, and help support law enforcement as well as support the family.
Yeah, there's a lot of complications with the family abduction cases that aren't with other cases, where the complication, especially if the parents are still married, and there's no custody agreement in place. That's a huge complication, and
it is, and it becomes even more of an issue if the child is taken internationally.
Yes.
Because now you're starting to deal with international legal systems in The Hague and international court systems. About half of our cases that we have, right now we've got about 1,000 family abduction cases that we're actively assisting with. And if the child goes international, that does take some work locally to go to the court system here in the United States, establish sole custody. You're being denied visitation of your own child. You have to prove that to the court locally. The court has to issue you sole custody here in the United States. You take that to law enforcement and say, I'm being denied my right to see my child because I now have sole custody. Then they become certainly more involved. But honestly, and law enforcement's abiding by the letter of the law, and rightfully so, right? And for good reason.
Right.
So some front loading of work needs to be done, especially when the child goes international, to engage those international resources. We have to establish custody here in the United States first, and then engage law enforcement here locally first, and then we can start going international, in looking for the child and working in the international court systems. If the child did not leave the United States, still, it's engaging with law enforcement right away. You're being denied visitation of your own child, whom you have either at the time partial custody, hopefully soon to be sole custody. But the bottom line is you're being denied access. Mm-hmm. And that's not right. That's not okay. And I say it's not okay on a couple of different fronts. So, every parent has, certainly the right to see their own child. And if you have a taking parent, well, let's step back. You talk to any law enforcement officer and you ask them, what's the most dangerous situation you go walk into on a regular basis? And they're going to probably tell you domestic, right? A domestic, all the years I worked in fire rescue, and involved in the fire rescue system, if you went to a call that was a domestic call, where there was a domestic fight going on, those are dangerous, right? Because they're fighting with one another, but they're also on each other's side, right? So however they communicate in that household, sometimes as poorly as they communicate in that household, you stepping in as a third party saying stop, that's a dangerous spot to be in, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you take a look at Amber Alerts, in the United States, there are about 200 Amber Alerts per year on average. 60% of the time, those Amber Alerts are family abductions. Now, let that sink in for a second, because to reach the level of an Amber Alert for a missing child, there has to be evidence or reason to believe that child's going to end up either deceased or severely injured by the abduction. Okay,
Yes.
60% of the time, a parent is believed to seriously endanger their own child. Domestic situations are dangerous. Law enforcement will tell you that. We'll tell you that from the fire rescue side, and certainly from the NIC side, that domestic situations, they can be horrific. And as we see with Amber Alerts, 60% of the Amber Alerts that are out there are family abductions. So they are certainly difficult to navigate. Now, majority of the family abduction cases do not end up in an Amber Alert. Majority of the time, but unfortunately for the searching parent, it's jumping through those hurdles to get law enforcement to understand that you've been denied access, you're being denied your right to see your own child, and law enforcement is getting so much better these days, honestly, more understanding of the crimes that are being committed, especially in the family abduction arena. But then again, they are held back a little bit. There has to be sometimes a little bit of legwork on the searching parent's side to establish that sole custody, to help law enforcement more actively do their job. And everybody's getting better at it, right? There's a lot of education that's been happening over the past 10, 15, 20 years on the awareness of family abductions, the endangerments that the children are faced with, and law enforcement is certainly more active than ever in helping find those children and get them back safely.
I think a lot of that is thanks to the case managers, because when a parent is having any kind of issue with law enforcement, the case manager will liaison with that officer and help explain to them the laws and about those kinds of cases. So
yeah, let's talk about the case managers for a little bit and the important role of a case manager. Now, when a case comes in, whether it's by law enforcement or from a parent, the case ends up being assigned to one of our family abduction case managers. These are individuals with years and years of experience in working family abduction cases,
right.
Explaining the resources, providing the support. We try not to have a parent deal with multiple divisions across NCMEC, right? We like them to have one point of contact, and that's the case manager. That's their case manager. And that helps streamline a lot of the process for the parent. Like I said earlier, we're trying to build out that triangle of communication between the case manager, law enforcement, and the parent, so we're all working together on the same goal of finding the child. So the case manager, some of them are retired law enforcement, some of them worked in the court system, some of them worked in social work, some of them are even homegrown to where they just grew up with the National Center throughout their career, and they just have an amazing skill and ability to work on these cases and provide the services that we provide at the National Center. So they're your point of contact. They're going to be there. They're going to be doing the check-ins with you. Did you learn anything new? Did you, learning about, it's the first time they've been introduced to your family. So they have a lot of questions, right? They want to learn everything they can about you, about the taking parent, about the child, social media handles, everything that we can utilize at some level to try and help find out where that child was taken. And then certainly working with law enforcement on that front as well. And as Abby, you mentioned it just a minute ago, when the parent is speaking with law enforcement, most often, and rightfully so, they're speaking with from a very emotional side, right? Because they're being denied access to their child, as any parent would get, and that's totally understandable. We're speaking to the parent from a not emotional side. We're speaking to law enforcement from not an emotional side. Right. We're there to explain what we know about family abductions. We have attorneys here at the National Center who are very well versed in the legal system as well. Can explain the many different laws that are out there today, as well as different ways law enforcement wants to help. They just have to sometimes understand the path to take to go ahead and file the right paperwork to start looking for this child. Right. So we're happy to have those conversations. We're happy to, help support law enforcement, with their efforts, right? Law enforcement is the investigative side of things. We are not investigators. We're there to assist. And that's what we do on a daily basis is, reach out to parents, reach out to law enforcement, talk about resources, talk to law enforcement about different search tactics that can be utilized. All the resources we bring to bear from the National Center, it's not just posters. Thankfully, for many donated resources to us, we've got access to our analysts. We have an analytical division here at NCMEC who are just amazing with the tools they have at their fingertips to do public record searches and social media searches and anything we can get our hands on. So the more information we have, the more we can search and helping put the pieces of the puzzle together that we can give back to law enforcement to support their investigation.
Right, and you're absolutely right about the difference in the contact with a parent and law enforcement and with your case managers and law enforcement, because yes, the parents are emotional. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is also complicated from TV shows, because what happens on the TV shows is not what happens in real life, but the parents have the expectations of, okay, this is going to be cleared up in one day, and law enforcement is going to do this, and they're going to go out and they're going to find my child right away. And it doesn't happen that way, and it's hard explaining that to parents who have this belief in their mind, oh, we're going to do an Amber Alert, but the child doesn't fit the criteria. Actually, thankfully, they don't fit the criteria. Right. And, the case manager also does a great job of calming down the parent for the most part, and helping them understand the realities of what's happening, so they don't have these unrealistic expectations.
Television, it's great. It's entertainment, right? And that's what it is. I watch the same shows too. When a child goes missing, and sometimes there are helicopters flying overhead, and most of the time there are not. It's an investigation that law enforcement conducts, which really gets us to the point of moving the case forward. So the expectation of what things like television provide, certainly not always reality, but then also keep in mind it doesn't mean things aren't happening. Things aren't happening. Things are happening on the law enforcement side. Things are happening from the NCMEC side. And our case managers, sometimes I know just from experience, in dealing with these cases, sometimes the parents are calling law enforcement. They're not getting an immediate pickup of the phone from their detective. Why? Because he's working the case, working many cases, but certainly working on the parent's case. But they can also call us and talk to the case manager. Why? Because we're also trying to call law enforcement. And if they're not receiving what they think they should be receiving, we're happy to have those discussions and explain that things are actually moving forward. We're doing a lot of searches. We're doing we're a very technologically advanced society these days. It's at times certain cases do demand boots on the ground and large search parties and whatnot for those specific types of cases. Not every case needs that, especially with the way people can travel these days, much easier than they could 20, 30, 40 years ago. I do want to dispel, one thing that we find ourselves, putting a pin in this one quite often, unfortunately still. There's no waiting time to report your child is missing. Years and years ago, back in the 60s and I think even early 70s, I used to have the legislation memorized, but there was you had to wait like 24 hours to make a report of a missing child. That is absolutely not the case. The second you realize your child is not where they're supposed to be, you can contact law enforcement. Honestly, you should. As we say in fire rescue, you can always return the second alarm, right? You can always turn away resources. It's okay to turn away resources if you find what you're looking for, but start the resources coming, and get them there to start working to help you solve your problem of missing your child. So there's no waiting period. The second you realize your child's not where they're supposed to be, you can contact law enforcement. You can call us. law enforcement's going to be your first call always. Why? Because they're boots on the ground. They're going to be the ones standing in front of you. They're the ones that support your local community. Get them there. Have them explain to them what's going on. Have their help right away. Make that report. Then your second phone call would be to us at the National Center, and we're happy to start applying our resources as well.
Yeah. And unfortunately, reports aren't always taken by law enforcement immediately, and that's where NCMEC comes in, because you call law enforcement and they, for whatever reason they have, they're not going to take the report immediately. You call NCMEC and you get a case manager, and they're the ones who will call law enforcement and help remind them of the law and what they should be doing. And hopefully they listen to the case manager too. Yeah.
We have seen cases where it's just been a misunderstanding between parents,
Yes.
especially if they're separated. There was a misunderstanding in pickup times.
Oh, absolutely.
Those things
Yeah.
happen all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, they're thankfully quickly cleared up.
Yes.
So yeah, if law enforcement doesn't take if they think it's a civil matter at first, they certainly believe that, and there's
Yes.
legislation to support that and policy and so on. But certainly calling the right resources and at least getting them looking at it is key, and they'll work the legal process as they always do. And law enforcement sometimes catches a bad rap, certainly on family abductions, that they're not going to take a report. They're following the laws that are in front of them. They're moving the case to where it seems most appropriate. And initially, they may think it's a civil matter, and it does take a little bit of understanding, and sometimes they're the work that they're doing. It's important. It's part of the process that they're working through. But just recognize that they want your child found too, as we all do.
Yeah.
But they have the laws and the policies that they have to abide by.
Yeah.
We just have to work through it.
Yeah, it's hard though when you have a parent who's over emotional, and they go into the police station and they're not very nice, I guess. You can put it that way. They make demands, and unrealistic demands, and they can burn their bridges, which is not a good thing to do. Then again, the case.
Anytime a parent doesn't know exactly where their child is an emotional time, rightfully
Yes.
so.
Yes.
I've been, I was an incident commander for many years, and did a lot of wilderness search and rescue myself. And
Yeah.
I'd never forget this one mother, her child and actually it was a child and her husband were kayaking, and they missed the turn, they got separated, and she's in front of me, literally 2 feet from my face, screaming at me, "You tell me right now, where is my child?"
Yeah.
And I'm looking at her like I literally have helicopter. U.S. Park Police is flying the Potomac, looking for any sign of life of where this child and daughter, or this child and husband are. And the mother's in front of me, and I'm trying to listen to the radio, and I'm talking to a helicopter. I'm pushing resources up and down the river. We're putting boats in the water, in command of all this scene. And this lady's in front of me, screaming at the top of her lungs, wanting her child back.
Yeah.
She's not helping me manage the scene right now. And unfortunately, I had to have law enforcement step in and back her up a bit, because I'm managing all these resources. And I see that time and time again with law enforcement as well. These cases are emotional, at many levels. And honestly, rightfully so. It's understandable. I understood what that woman was going through. I didn't hold anything against her.
Right.
Which was really limiting me from doing my job in trying to find and solve her problem by screaming at me 2 inches from my face. She just arrived on scene. She got word that her husband and daughter were missing. She's in front of me screaming. I'm trying to command resources and get my plan together, my search plan together to enact it. And the emotional side of it was really limiting me from doing what I needed to do. So parents having the understanding, as long as there's resources coming in, as long as you got law enforcement involved, it's never easy. But these things, the plans need to come together, and that's not an easy one to understand. It's not an easy one to follow if you don't do it on a regular basis. Um, but it's understandable. The emotional side is absolutely understanding.
Yeah,
We all want the child home safely. We all
absolutely.
want them home right now, as she
Yeah,
did,
I know. Or
uh,
yesterday.
or
Yeah,
yesterday. Yes,
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
But these things sometimes take a little bit of time to come together. Like I said, unfortunately, even in the international sense, they take a little bit. They take a lot more time because now you're dealing with lawyers and court and
Yeah.
all these other things that need to come into play. And it's not easy on the parent. It's not easy on the family. If there's left behind, if they're searching siblings
Yeah.
along with the, if one child was taken and another was not, there's a whole family there that needs the support and needs the understanding. And we're in it for the marathon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes it is. But having that parent just sit back for a second and think like, okay, what's going to move this case forward? How can we move this forward? And we
Right.
deal with some amazing parents, with patience, and patience, only gets you so far sometimes, right? It's emotional for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the Team Hope peer support comes in,
Huge.
because we can help the parent understand that what they're experiencing is so normal. Not only that, it's physiological because the frontal cortex of the brain is interfered with and just flooded. So one of the things that happens is they have no concept of time. So you could get a parent who is calling their case manager 10 times in one day, not even realizing it's just one day, or calling law enforcement over and over and over again because they haven't gotten a response, and not even realizing that they're doing it because they don't know about time anymore. So that's where Team Hope can come in and help calm people down, help them understand. Because people seem to have a tendency to listen to someone else who's been through it, had that personal experience.
And that's for us that's so important. Just to put the players on the board. Team Hope is within NCMEC's Family Advocacy Division, and Team Hope, parents who've actually walked in these shoes, who understand firsthand what's going on and the emotional side of it. So you have a case manager who's working to support law enforcement, working to support the searching family, looking for information, looking to apply NCMEC resources, NCMEC tools, all in the search of the missing child. Because if we can find that child quickly, everything else becomes better much more quickly, right?
Right.
But while all that is happening, the family's going through their own trauma, their own issues that they're struggling with, and realization of what's actually happening. We introduce Team Hope. Our case managers will bring Team Hope into the communication to
Right.
talk directly with the family because our Team Hope folks, amazing, they've walked in those shoes
Yeah.
firsthand. They know what's going on. They know what's happening from the emotional side. They're not there to work on the missing child case to
No.
find the missing child. That's the case manager. They're there to work to support the case manager in helping support the family. They'll talk to the family directly. They'll talk through different ways to cope with the situation. I remember every year I go to the Team Hope training. They talk about even keeping a journal so you can keep track of who you've talked to and all the emotions that you're going through and write them down. Take a minute out of the day for yourself. Take a couple of minutes out of the day to support your other family members, and they just do such an amazing job walking the line of emotional support at a totally different level that isn't commonly seen. Why? Because they lived it and they know what you're going through. They have a great idea of what you're going through, and they're there to work with the family to support. And also main goal: what can we do to bring home this child? Make sure they come home to a good environment, keep the family together. The case
Right.
manager, law enforcement, the family, all working to find the missing child. Let's talk about the emotional side, and that's where Team Hope comes into play.
Yeah. That's why I loved working with you when I was with Team Hope, because you get it, you understand, and I always appreciated you, even when it seemed like maybe I didn't, but I did.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's it's when to inject Team Hope at the right time is so important, and
Yeah.
we've learned that so well working together over the years. When is the right time to bring them in? Why? Because we're looking for our case managers are looking for that information, right? We want to dig in and we want to apply resources because that's what we do. But there's, for our case managers for Team Hope, it's they get brought in, they get introduced into the family. They're a new player on the board, and they certainly have an amazing role that they work to uphold and support the entire situation. So, as I said earlier, it's not just the emotional side of the search. Then you get up to the point everybody wants, which is the recovery. But then you also have the post-recovery events that are going on. That's where Team Hope, our family advocacy division, end up coming into play. Everybody went through some pretty big trauma. How can we make sure this family stays together, stays strong for many years to come? And like I said, they play such an important role to help the entire situation.
Yeah, it's a good partnership with the case managers.
It is.
I have one more question for you.
Sure.
So if there's one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with, the most important thing that you want them to take away from your episode and your wisdom, what would you like it to be?
It's pretty simple. You're not alone. From day one, the minute you realize the situation that you're in, the minute you realize that you're in the wrong race, right? The race that you did not want to be in, you're not alone. You engage with the right resources. First, engage with law enforcement. Then engage with the National Center, right? Because that's what we do. But there are so many resources out there to support you. And there are so many tools at your fingertips that you don't even know about. And honestly, until something tragic like this happens, you didn't need to know about them. We are at times one of the best kept secrets as to the resources that we're able to bring to bear in the search for missing children. And that's because, why? Because the general public doesn't need to know about these tools and resources on a regular basis. But the minute you're faced with something tragic like this, knowing these resources are there, knowing that you're not alone in this fight to find your missing child, knowing that you have someone just a phone call away to help you through the race that you did not want to be in, is extremely important and powerful. Because honestly, you can't do it alone. You can't. No. You could be the strongest bodybuilder in the United States. You're not strong enough to handle this alone. I'm sorry, but you're not. Yeah. These cases take their toll. And they cause stressors that you never even knew existed. And as you didn't know about these resources beforehand, you didn't know about these stressors either. And they catch you in a very vulnerable spot. And you need these resources. You need law enforcement, the National Center, organizations like ours to help you through it. Some people get extra support from church groups, whatever the case may be. Right. You're not alone in this. And that's the biggest thing to take away from this session here. The biggest thing I would want your listeners to understand is you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really so important because you do feel like you're alone. You burn out your family, you burn out your friends, but the case manager is always there. So that's great. Thank you. All right, I am going to share my screen right now so we can see a missing child, and then I'll come right back. And here we go. Look at this very adorable young man, King Hamad Richards. That's quite a name. He's been missing since March 1st, 2025 from New Rochelle, New York. He's now 11 years old. And he was last seen on March 1st, 2025, and he may be in the company of his father. If you believe that you've seen him, you can call the City of New Rochelle Police Department at 914-654-2300 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. If you are just on audio and not on a platform where you can actually see this podcast, I encourage you, please go to the Missing Children's website, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website at missingkids.org, and look for King Hamad Richards and all the other missing children, because they want you to be their voice. They need your help to come home safely. So thank you so much. And back to John. John, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and your great story, which is so inspiring, and all about the National Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. Always appreciate seeing you, and thank you to your listeners. And honestly, if anyone needs more information, visit our website at ncmec.org, ncmec.org. We've got some, whether you're looking for resources or even if you're looking to help find missing children, we've got an amazing poster section where you can zoom in on a map of the United States, zoom into your local area, and look for kids in your area who are missing. Keep your eye out, because we need all the help we can get. There are parents out there, there are law enforcement agencies out there relying on the community to help bring their kids home. And we know that, you know that, and we always need the help.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you have any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them and would appreciate your comments and suggestions. You can reach me at the email abduction.victimtosurvivor@gmail.com. You can also follow the podcast on our Facebook page, Abduction Victim to Survivor. I hope you will subscribe and leave a review or comment. I believe your support will help people find their voices and the strength to tell their stories. If you or someone you know is facing family abduction, please reach out to me. You're not alone. We'll see you next Tuesday on Abduction Victim to Survivor. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.